Kia ora guys, Richard Liu here, editor at NZ Entrepreneur magazine. And right now we're about to hear from James Pinner. James is the acting CEO and, let me get this right, Elevate Fund Investment Director. James is from New Zealand Growth Capital Partners, and otherwise known as NZGP. And joining us today, of course, we're celebrating Global Entrepreneurship Week, so really looking forward to this chat. So thanks, first of all, James, for giving us your time today.
Thank you, and thanks for giving me an opportunity. Excited.
Cool. Now, for people who haven't heard of NZGCP, can you just give us, I guess, what might be the elevator pitch, if you like, for the organisation?
Yeah, so we're a Crown agency established in about 2002, originally called New Zealand Venture Investment Fund, and now New Zealand Growth Capital Partners. So we run two funds. One is the Aspire Fund, which is Aspire Seed Fund, which is a co-investment model. So we invest directly into early stage startups across a broad range of sectors, but generally pretty early, investing alongside other angel groups, seed funds, venture capital funds. We're about 180 companies in our existing portfolio, and we look to invest early and follow on into some of the winners. And then we also run the Elevate Fund, which was launched formally in March last year. So that invests, it's a $300 million fund of funds. That means we invest directly into venture capital funds, who then in turn invest into companies more at the sort of later stage, so the venture capital, Series A, Series B stage. And we've invested into 6 funds so far on the Elevate side. Right.
Okay, so for the entrepreneurs watching here, if you've got an idea that you're working on, or a startup or a scale up, what you're saying here, James, is that you guys are the ones who can help provide some of that funding, obviously for those that qualify.
Yep.
And so that's pretty awesome for a start. You mentioned there with the Aspire Fund, you use the word co-investment. Now, again, for any founders that might be watching and are considering potentially raising capital, can you just explain or tease out the distinction there, but with the way that NZGCP works with that fund?
Yeah, so I think sort of one of the reasons we changed our name to Growth Capital Partners is we want to partner with other investors in the ecosystem. So we can't invest unless there's some, at least sort of one-to-one private capital coming in at the same time. So what that means is we historically haven't really led rounds. What we do is we try and find other investors to lead the rounds and set the terms, and then we're there to provide a bit more matching capital to ensure that the rounds are sort of adequately sized, but we can provide some guidance and help out with due diligence on helping other investors as well to help expedite the process. And we're there, ultimately, if you come to us, we can help sort of introduce you to other potential investors, whether it's at the early stage seed or angel space, or later stage in the terms of the venture capital funds. So not just the funds we've invested into, but across the ecosystem, we've got a pretty good idea of who's around and who's investing in what kind of sectors, for example, and what stage.
Right. And when you talk about lead investors, can you give us an example of some of those types of organizations, or are they individuals? Are they,
Yeah, we generally, at the early stage in terms of Aspire, it's predominantly angel groups. So the likes of Flying Kiwi Angels and Angel HQ Icehouse. There's angel networks, essentially, angel groups all around the country. So if you go on the Angel Association New Zealand website, aanz.co.nz, I think it is, you can find a list of all the angel groups. Then there's a bunch of seed funds. So the likes of Hillfront, Matu, again, Icehouse has got a few different funds there. And then at a later stage, which is sort of when products are a bit more formed, you're going to that more sort of growth stage, then there's the venture capital funds, and that's the likes of Movac, GD1, Blackbird, depending on what sector you're in as well. So they're the more generalist ones, and then you've got some that focus on more specific sectors. So Pacific Channel, Nuance, and trying to think, mine's gone blank, but yeah, there's other sort of sector focused funds as well, which you can talk to.
Yeah. Right. Cool. So now, obviously, the work you do is helping provide something very valuable for entrepreneurs and innovators, and that is capital for exploring their ideas, executing on their ideas, and then ideally helping grow. So it's fantastic. But if we think about from a high level point of view, strategically, what does success look like for you guys in terms of looking at the outcomes in terms of investing in New Zealand startups and scale-ups?
Yeah, it's something we're actively looking at the moment. We're taking a bit of the market's moved a lot in the last 12 to 18 months, largely because of the money we've deployed for Elevate. The venture capital market has grown significantly bigger than it's ever been in New Zealand. So we're now thinking, well, what does the next 5 to 10 years look like? We're a Crown, as I said, a Crown agency. Our job is to help catalyse the capability and the capital in the market. So we're not trying to solve all the problems ourselves. What we're trying to help is build some of that capability and address some of the capital gaps. So some of that is sector specific. So there are some sectors which are there's a growing amount of funding. For example, software as a service. There's quite a lot of investors across all stages. Where some of the more sort of more complex and high, longer term horizons, especially sort of deep tech. So that's sort of things from agri-tech to drug discovery, any kind of real sort of IP heavy technology. We're trying to probably be focusing more on that over the next few years. And ultimately what we're trying to do is essentially move to a more self-sustaining market. So we're not needed in as many sectors. We can just focus on perhaps new and emerging sectors. And really there to support the investors across all of the stages and build their capability, or support them to build it, not necessarily do it ourselves. And then ultimately that's there to help to create more competition for startups, so that they've got a broader range of investors they can talk to across all stages, to help increase global connectivity as well, which is a really important factor for startups as they scale out of and beyond New Zealand, and also just helping them along the way, because we all appreciate it's a tough job, and especially when you're doing this from the start, knowing where to go is a really difficult sort of piece of work. So actually trying to help people just be more connected as well. So yeah, ultimately 5 to 10 years, we'd like to see the venture capital market significantly bigger, but that means every stage below has to be bigger too, and we need to continue to build a pipeline of high quality companies. And we're doing, New Zealand's doing a fantastic job in that, and we just like to see it just expand, and it's creating high value jobs to New Zealand, and just sort of adding more diversity to the economy as well, both from a sort of pure diversity of people point of view, but also from a diversity of industry as well, and creating some really fantastic global exporting businesses.
Now, 2021 has been a funny old year. It seems like, after last year, we were just getting our act together and getting things moving and getting some momentum. And of course, the latter half of this year, we've had the COVID-19 disruption once again, New Zealand-wide, specific, more so in Auckland. Now, what effect has this sort of had in terms of, the investment community, or what you've been seeing in terms of companies being funded this year versus last year or the year before? Has it disrupted that whole side of things?
It has, but probably not in a way we expected. Early sort of March 2020, we were all worried about what was happening. We were beginning to see the signs of COVID happening across the globe, and luckily, New Zealand was it's one of the few things that's good to be late to the party to. But we saw sort of the market disruption, and there was a bit of fear of actually is investor sentiment going to slow down. So the government was pretty forward thinking and allowed us to spend more. We have a cap on how much we can spend in our direct fund, the Aspire fund. They increased that just to give the market a little bit more certainty. We didn't need to actually deploy it. The market slowed down for a few months and then bounced back pretty quickly. So that was a really, really positive sign that we didn't need to intervene or put more capital to work. At the same time, a lot of funds that I've talked about before, especially sort of around the time, I think it was sort of Movac and Blackbird were launching big funds. And so there was a lot of capital actually flowed into the market, which is obviously those funds are generally sort of invest over 5 years. So that money is now still available. And we're seeing lots of really good opportunities that those companies are generally sort of, it's almost counter-cyclical sometimes in the venture industry, that some of the best businesses are created out of adversity. And we've seen a lot of really exciting to the acceleration of digital technology, and especially in healthcare and things like that. So there's been a lot of really good companies being created and a lot of funding going into them. The biggest issue we're facing right now is immigration. So all these companies are looking to hire 10s, 20, 10s, 50s of people. And actually, obviously, with the border restrictions at the moment, it's really hard to bring people from overseas. We obviously want to grow domestic talent, but at the same time, just the sheer volume of growth in jobs is that these startups are creating, which is obviously fantastic. This means there aren't as many people here as we need at the moment. So obviously in the long term, we'll hopefully be able to fix that domestically, but in the meantime, that's becoming a bit of a bottleneck on some of the growth. So COVID's disrupted it in that way, which was rather than the actual sort of lack of investment, which is what we feared originally.
And obviously, we've seen any number of awesome stories coming out over the last year or so on the innovation side. They say necessity is the mother of invention. Yep. We can certainly bear that out from what we've seen. What for you guys, or your team, maybe some standout moments for 2021, if we think about sort of the year in innovation?
It's been a year. There's been a lot of exits, ultimately sort of companies being sold or listed on different stock exchanges. So from one of our companies, Aroa Biosurgery, which listed on the ASX last year. We first invested them, I think, 13 years prior to that. So it's sort of an anecdote of how long it takes sometimes. But they're going from strength to strength, and I think really good prospects there. Rocket Lab more recently is just listed on the NASDAQ in the US, and it's a multi-billion-dollar business, and that's just created a whole new industry of space innovation in New Zealand. There's all not only the company itself and the number of people they're hiring, but also there's companies now created to supply technology and products to them. And we've already seen quite a few spin-outs of people who used to work there going off to create new businesses, and that's the kind of momentum we like to see, and I think that's been fantastic. There's been a number of exits of other companies for hundreds, if not billions of dollars, which again is just a sign that these things always take a long time, and actually we're beginning to see the rewards of all the work that was done many years ago by a broad cohort of investors. And just I guess a maturity in the venture capital market as well, just seeing the sheer volume of money that's gone into that. We've put in committed about 150 million, and there's over 420 of private matching capital has gone onto those funds as well. So that's nearly 600 million available at the VC stage for New Zealand companies over the next 3 or 4 years.
And it's certainly an exciting time to be an entrepreneur in New Zealand. We'd probably have to say, it's never been easier to access that capital to power our businesses. So watch this space.
Yep.
So for you guys next year, 2022, what new and exciting things might we be looking forward to in terms of, I guess, maybe potential new initiatives or just projects you have on the go?
Yeah, so we're doing a bit of a review at the moment. There's what we're trying to do is just make sure we're on sort of moving with the market, so maintaining that flexibility as the market's moved. And there's positive things going on in the venture space. There's the amount of money going in the angel investment space is growing, but there's still some other gaps in terms of new sectors and emerging technologies that we think we can help sort of support at the early stage. And I think so we'll probably be investing a little bit earlier as well, just to make sure that companies get access to that capital throughout the journey. We'll be probably a bit more active with some of our portfolio companies as well. We've historically been a bit more of a passive investor, but we want to sort of gear that up. And then we're going to be sort of looking at helping help the ecosystem and the investors and startups more broadly. So a few initiatives that we're going to try and launch in the new year.
Cool. Sounds good. Now, I'm sure you'll agree that we operate in a pretty inspiring space of various organizations. For people watching today, any last sort of final words you'd like to leave them with in terms of, perhaps for aspiring founders?
Yeah, I think we all appreciate it's sometimes hard to navigate the world of getting investment in New Zealand. There's actually a lot of capital out there. It's just knowing where to look, and if you aren't in this space already, it's sometimes a bit perplexing. But I think there's some good resources out there. If you look at the Angel Association website, if you look at our website, nzgp.co.nz, hopefully there's some good resources there that you can use, and basically just get in touch with someone who's done it before, or talk to an investor, or talk to us, and we'll happily sort of take you along that journey and sort of help you to understand. The amount of amazing innovation we're seeing coming out of this country is phenomenal, and it's we're seeing the later stages of it now, but we're still seeing amazing in the private domain, some amazing technologies, game-changing technologies, and I think we have the opportunity from here to solve some global problems, and we look forward to seeing the new investors come through and the great ideas they're coming up with.
Well, James, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today, and thanks for sharing some of those thoughts and insights. That was James Pinner, Acting Chief Exec at New Zealand Growth Capital Partners. Thanks once again for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you. Cheers.